GMB interrupted for breaking announcement, and it's bad news for Rachel Reeves. Good Morning Britain presenter Sean Fletcher issued a breaking news announcement in a crushing blow to Chancellor Rachel Reeves. Rachel Reeves was delivered a huge blow as Good Morning Britain delivered a breaking news update. Ed Balls and Susanna Reid hosted Tuesdays, September 30th, of the program, joined in the studio by Sean Fletcher to share the rest of the day's news. Ahead of her co-star segment, Susanna declared, "I have a feeling Sean does not have good news as the Labour Party Prime Minister prepares his speech this afternoon?" Not for Rachel Reeves, Sean agreed as he announced the Office for National Statistics, ONS, revealed that the gross domestic product, GDP, saw a 0.3% increase between April and June, following a 0.7% surge in the first quarter. He said, "Breaking news to start with in the last few minutes. The Office for National Statistics has released the latest official figures, and it's not good news for the Chancellor who had promised to make growing in the economy her main target. The latest GDP growth figures confirm that the country's economy is instead slowing down, with the rate of growth easing from 0.7% to only 0.3% from April to June. This growth was fueled by a 0.4% rise in services and a 1% boost in construction. However, the production sector witnessed a decline of 0.8%, while real household disposable income, RHDI, per head saw a modest increase of 0.2%. The largest negative contributor came from the wholesale and retail trade sectors. The repair of motor vehicles and motorbikes dipped by 1%, while their wholesale trade also fell by 2.4%. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has pledged to increase economic productivity in the forthcoming autumn budget, set for November 26. Morning television thrives on its rhythm. The headlines, the weather, the back and forth between presenters, and the occasional fiery guest exchange. It all forms a comforting routine for millions across Britain. But today, Good Morning Britain viewers had that rhythm shattered. The cameras cut suddenly from Susanna Reid's polished commentary to a stern-faced newsreader with a piece of breaking news that left Labour's shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves in a storm she could not have prepared for. The words "breaking news" flashed in red across the screen, their ominous urgency crackling through living rooms across the country. For Rachel Reeves, who had been scheduled later in the program to deliver a carefully staged interview about Labour's economic vision, the timing could not have been worse. "Good morning," the newsreader began. "We're interrupting this segment with urgent political news that could have serious ramifications for the Labour Party. A fresh report has emerged this morning casting doubt on Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves' handling of key budget projections, with critics warning this could undermine Labour's credibility on the economy." The screen split. On one side, the stony newsreader, on the other, rolling text detailing the allegations. Miscalculations. Discrepancies. A serious credibility gap. For Labour's top economic voice, the woman who has staked her reputation on being the responsible custodian of Britain's finances, this was political dynamite, and not in her favour. The shockwave. The timing of the announcement couldn't have been scripted better, or worse, depending on which side of the aisle one sits. Just days earlier, Reeves had delivered a major economic address that Labour had touted as their blueprint for government. It was meant to showcase steadiness, competence, and, above all, trustworthiness. The idea was simple. Convince the public that Labour, once again, could be trusted with the nation's wallet. But now, with GMB's interruption, that carefully built narrative cracked. Social media lit up within minutes. Clips of the announcement were shared, dissected, memed. X, formerly Twitter, was awash with hashtags. Hashtag Reeves Crisis, hashtag LabourMaths, hashtag Budget Blunder. The digital court of public opinion had convened before Reeves had even stepped in front of a camera. Back in the GMB studio, Susanna Reid raised her eyebrows in that subtle but devastating way she's mastered over the years. "Well," she remarked dryly, "that will certainly make our next interview with the Shadow Chancellor an interesting one." The comment drew a half-suppressed chuckle from her co-host, but the tone was unmistakable. The knives were out. A familiar pattern. For viewers, the drama felt almost inevitable. Labour figures have long struggled with economic credibility in the public eye, and Reeves had been seen as the solution. An Oxford-educated economist, tough-minded, precise. But politics is rarely fair, and the optics of numbers gone wrong can undo months of diligent work. The breaking announcement brought back memories of past blunders. Gordon Brown's fateful, "No more boom and bust," Ed Balls' infamous forgetfulness about spending numbers on live television, even John McDonnell's borrowing figures that critics pounced on with glee. Now Reeves risked joining that hall of cautionary announcement sting even more was how quickly it spiraled beyond numbers. In politics, perception is everything. And the perception forming in real time was one of incompetence, or worse, dishonesty. If she can't add up now, one viral post quipped, what happens if she's in charge of billions? The interview that followed. When Reeves finally appeared on screen, she was visibly rattled. Her team had scrambled to prepare talking points, but no briefing can perfectly shield a politician from a breaking scandal mid-broadcast. The GMB presenters wasted no time. Shadow Chancellor Susanna Reid began with an icy calm. The breaking news this morning suggests serious questions about your budget figures. Did you mislead the public? Reeves tried to steady herself. No, Susanna. What we've seen this morning is a politically motivated attempt to discredit Labour's plan. The figures in question are... But Reid interrupted. Forgive me, but the report isn't from your political opponents. It's from an independent watchdog. How can you ask the public to trust Labour's sums when they're already being called into question? It was brutal, live, and unrelenting. Reeves stumbled through her defense, insisting the errors were minor discrepancies, and easily clarified. Yet the damage was done. The optics weren't of a calm, collected future chancellor explaining her plan. They were of a politician on the back foot, scrambling. The aftermath. By mid-morning, the fallout was everywhere. Radio phone-ins buzzed with callers questioning Reeves' competence. Rival parties pounced, with conservatives branding Labour's economic plan a fantasy budget, and the Liberal Democrats calling for full transparency. For Labour supporters, the frustration was palpable. We finally get taken seriously on the economy, one grassroots activist posted. And then this happens. The party leadership, meanwhile, reportedly went into crisis talks, fearing that weeks of careful messaging had just been torpedoed in under 10 minutes of live television. The irony was bitter. Labour had sought to use Rachel Reeves as the embodiment of economic stability. Instead, the very symbol of stability was now cast as unstable. Why this matters? The interruption on GMB wasn't just bad news for Rachel Reeves, it was bad news for Labour at large. General elections are won and lost on economic trust. Tony Blair knew it, Gordon Brown knew it, and Keir Starmer certainly knows it. For all the talk of healthcare, immigration, or education, voters so often return to a single brutal question. Who do I trust to handle my money? And in that moment on Good Morning Britain, the trust Labour had been painstakingly rebuilding looked perilously shaky. The broader drama of live TV. Of course, part of the drama was amplified by the medium itself. Live television has a cruel immediacy. There's no pause button, no chance to regroup, no room to massage the message. Breaking news slices through the careful choreography of politics, revealing something raw and unscripted. For viewers, it's gripping. For politicians, it's a nightmare. The GMB interruption will now join the annals of unforgettable live TV political moments. Just as Nick Clegg's tuition fees U-turn became shorthand for betrayal, or Theresa May's coughing fit symbolized a faltering premiership, Rachel Reeves' budget bombshell moment may linger long beyond the details of the numbers themselves. What comes next for Reeves? Reeves' challenge now is twofold: repair the immediate damage and restore the broader narrative. The first requires urgent clarification of the figures, transparency, and, crucially, a tone of humility rather than defensiveness. The second is harder, convincing a skeptical public that Labour's economic message is still intact. Whether she succeeds will depend on how quickly she can pivot. Politics is as much about resilience as it is about precision. But make no mistake, this was a hammer blow to her credibility, and credibility is the currency of any would-be chancellor. Conclusion. The interruption of Good Morning Britain this morning will be remembered not just as a disruption to routine programming, but as a pivotal moment in Rachel Reeves' career. It was live, unscripted, and devastating. For Reeves, it was bad news, perhaps the worst kind of news. The kind that doesn't just challenge a statistic but undermines a reputation. And as viewers finished their morning coffee, some no doubt shook their heads with the familiar weariness that comes when politicians stumble yet again. Numbers may be abstract, but trust is not. And in British politics, once trust slips, it is very hard to win back.